Okay, we're about to go into a recap and close. This is lightning round stuff here. All right, first signs of trying to create an effective organization out of fallible individuals appeared 35,000 years ago in the Upper Paleolithic period. It was the genesis of organizational solutions. It had been advancements in technology and expansion in organizational scope and or span that have driven the need for new organizational solutions. In the mid-1800s, the railroads gave us systematic management. Early 1900s, Frederick Taylor gave us scientific management. In the 1960s, NASA gave us systems management, and the effects of each of these organizational solutions has been accumulative. Since NASA gave us systems management in the 60s, Toffler's curve has gone vertical. Change is now environmental. As a result, computing capability is ubiquitous. Everything's networked. Any kind of data can be transported, and transactions can be conducted by virtually anyone, anywhere, anytime, and done at the speed of light. Markets for goods, capital, skills are now global, internet connected, thus the law of price factor equalization places a premium on differentiation. Today's world is characterized by VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Operating in a VUCA environment is the problem of disorganized complexity, complex, involving variables that are interrelated, thus the number of interactions between elements increases dramatically and exhibit nonlinear change. Small changes can compound to create big impact. The butterfly effect, this all conspires to create an imperative for a new organizational solution based on the Agile philosophy. Agile's roots are in manufacturing. Post-World War II Japan were brought to broad attention via a 1986 HBR article. In the mid to late 1990s, software developers embraced the philosophy, developed multiple independent approaches based on it. This milieu achieved critical mass, and Agile was codified in 2001 with the publication of the Agile Manifesto. The chief cause of Agile's success or failure is leadership, conditioning the organization's cultural fertility versus toxicity, making the necessary changes in themselves and leading the change required in the organization's culture. Agile product development is an example of micro-agility. Macro-agility is the inculcation of the Agile philosophy throughout the organization, its leadership, its management, and its operations. That's, in other words, organizational agility. Every organization's value chain is a composite of its technical system, its processes, and its social system, its culture. If you're going to make a change to one system, you must necessarily make a change to the other system, else your organization will reject that change like the body rejects the transplanted organ. Organizational agility equals the product of process agility times cultural agility. In today's world, organizational agility is the key to sustainable competitive advantage, and culture is the key to organizational agility. Culture is the sum of an organization's habits. Habit occurs at the intersection of knowledge, skill, and attitude. There's competitive advantage in habitual behavior because it's highly reliable, requires little to no management. The leadership challenge is to cultivate the habitual behaviors that lead to organizational agility. A culture's habits cannot be changed directly. They are changed indirectly by how the variables in the 10S model are configured. Just like any complex system, the variables in the 10S model are interrelated, thus the number of interactions between them increases dramatically. Because of these dense interactions, cultures exhibit nonlinear change, thus requiring nonlinear thinking, and small changes can compound to create great impact. Any questions? When I figured out I had to learn more about this culture stuff, and again, I was talking to a QM major, I had the good, I'm able to do this, I don't know how. I had the good fortune of, does anybody know who Tom Peters is? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I went to one of his conferences, and I had the good fortune to catch him for 20 minutes, just one-on-one. And I explained my dilemma to him, and I thought, well, what do you think? MBA, what school should I go to learn? He says, do not. Now, if this offends anybody with an MBA, I'm sorry. Do not pursue an MBA. World's got too many of those. They'll teach you solutions to yesterday's problems. He said some awful things. He says, here are the people that are thinking, whose thinking, really leads. And he gave me a lot of the people you see here. He says they've written books. A lot of them will teach their own classes or conduct week-long workshops and conferences about their material. They're easy to find. Go seek them out. That's what I did. I created my own curriculum. I went and sought those guys out. I introduced you to it. There's a lot more. And then I brought home the stuff they taught, and I'd try it out in my organization. The stuff that worked, I kept. The stuff that didn't work, I tossed out. This is the stuff that worked. All right, a few closing comments. A couple properties I like about the 10S model that really that makes it a good diagnostic model. One, it's a holistic system. You touch one part, you kind of touch them all. In fact, you can use it for looking for those interrelationships, problems of alignment. You say you value innovation, but you got a highly risk-adverse decision-making process. That doesn't work. You say you want to have commitment and release style of management, but you have a rigidly hierarchical organization structure, and that doesn't work. So you can look for misalignment problems. It's also developmental. Here's what I mean by that. Personal development. Increase, what you do for yourself. And I will tell you, I think there are 3 dimensions on which you should be exercising. Physical, working out, how you eat, how you sleep. Intellectual, what are you reading? Do you write critically? You think critically? Emotional, what are your relationships like? It's all about relationships. And then spiritual. And by spiritual, I do not mean religion. I mean having for yourself a set of principles and values by which you live. Now, if you happen to get those from your religion's scriptures, awesome. If you happen to get them from Mother Nature, awesome. If you happen to get them because they were carved on the back of a pinball machine in a bus stop in Cleveland, awesome. I do not care, as long as they're values that are based on sound principles. Exercise, getting spiritual exercise is a matter of, can you subordinate your moods to those values? That's spiritual exercise. All right, second level, interpersonal development. Here we surround skills and staff. It is my opinion that a good working relationship, and you could argue this extends to other kind of relationship, is a function of 2 things. Having confidence in each other's competency, which is a function of skills, and each other's trustworthiness, which is a function of individual character, self-evident root, trustworthiness. So trust and competency. Carrie here may be the world's greatest Python programmer, but I can't trust her. It's no good. Nadine may be unconditionally trustworthy, but she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. It's no good. Managerial development. I talked about the spectrum of managerial styles, from command and control to commitment and release. The blocking and tackling of those styles is very different. Very different skill set is needed for those skills. And by the way, a good leader has to have a repertoire of styles to apply to different situations. Situations aren't going to conform to your style. Fourth level is organizational development. How you're structured, your strategic plan, how you're going to measure, reward people, stuff like that. Okay? And then there's ground zero. Things you have, whether you bother to articulate them or not, they will exist. Okay. Another interesting aspect of this is that there is a hierarchical relationship between those 4 levels. You can work as hard as you want at level 4, organizational development, and you will never be any stronger than you are at level 3, managerial development. You can come up with the most exquisite strategic plan, but if you don't have the managerial capability to execute, it just doesn't matter. And you can work as hard as you want at level 3, managerial development, but you'll never be any stronger than you are at level 2, interpersonal development. You may have a great range of managerial skill, but Bobby and Susie don't trust each other on your work team. There's incompetence because decisions have been made to staff via nepotism, right? There's absence of trust or absence of competence somewhere. Your managerial skill doesn't matter. And you can see where I'm going here. You can work as hard as you want at level 2, but you'll never be any stronger than you are at level 1. Therefore, if you're a leader and you want to initiate an organizational transformation, where should you start?
Level 1.
There we go. With yourself. You can persuade all you like, but if you don't model, the hypocrisy is immediate. And the human capacity to detect insincerity is like that. Right? But where do most change efforts start? Yeah, we're going to reorganize. We should draft a new strategic plan. And, our pay system hasn't been adjusted in 6 months. That's where they start. Fine. Go ahead. So.
Question.
Yes,
or maybe an observation. I really appreciate the note on the self, know yourself and model the behavior. And I don't know if you could share examples of it, but it feels like if I do that, and when I do that, I will identify where the behavior problems exist, and then you can target that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, things will be a lot more clear. People will wonder what you're up to.
Well, you'll find the critics. I think that it's been my experience anyway that they rise. They're the ones that are in the back of the room and then fold the arms.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to.
They'll kind of expose
You're trying to
themselves.
model behavior.
Right.
And it's different or foreign or awkward.
And then you'll have other people that will ask you, and they'll say, what's going on, Mike? And then there's other people who are close to you. Communication's not hard. What's hard is trust. You ever had a relationship with a person where the trust was so high, you were trying to communicate something and you misspoke, you screwed it up, but they still got your meeting? Yeah, it's a trust. Communication's easy, it's trust that's hard. And so you'll have those people who know immediately what's going on. Once you start behaving differently, you can start asking, you now have license to ask other people to behave differently. So, being a leader means you're the one who takes the first step. So I'm telling you to take that first step. You lead by example whether you choose to or not. So let it be by design. And suit up and lead from the front. Follow me is way more effective than, hey, you go over there and do this. Right? Be a model first, a coach second, and never a critic. Nobody ever built a statue of a critic. Characteristics of agile leadership. Agile leaders start with why. Have a noble why. People will put up with just about any what and about any how if you have a noble why. There's a quote I stole from Jack London. God's own man lovers would die but for the kiss, but not for $100,000 a year. Truth telling. Separate signal from noise. Tell the unvarnished, non-sugar-coated truth. Tell the truth properly calibrated to the sense of urgency and sense of gravity. Too much stuff comes in now with a false sense of urgency and a false sense of gravity. Don't jerk people around like that. Tell people what they need to know to do their jobs and lead their lives rather than telling them what they want to hear. And finally, path finding. The ability to find a path to a desired goal where no path currently exists or where it's not readily apparent. The ability to navigate without a roadmap, just with a compass. The ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome obstacles blocking your way and to be unconstrained by conventional thinking. Those are what agile leadership is about. Agile leadership is about leading, for change. It is not about more style, more flair, or polish. It's about more brains, more heart, more guts. Brains, heart, guts. BHG. So let me give you a leadership challenge. Something for you to think about. Learn something new. Get smarter and learn something new. Something new and difficult, but valuable. By the way, hurry. The world needs you. Show more heart and care about things that truly matter. And again, hurry. The world needs you. Then have the guts to solve those problems that matter. And hurry. Quit wasting your time on shit that doesn't matter. If you can invest in these three things, what happens to your leverage? What happens to your value? What happens to your choices? There will always be people in this world who cut corners better than you, will work more hours than you, will work for cheaper than you. But what would happen if you became the person who is smarter, who cares more, and has the guts to take on problems that really matter. You will be called a leader. Closing thought. As you're going through this, remember that the Grand Canyon was not created by an earthquake. This all takes time. It's tempting to imagine that this can all be done with one fell swoop, some sudden shock or some dramatic change or some grand gesture. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. It's your daily practice. The decisions you make, the actions you take, the cultural practices and biases you choose, it's the piling up of those things over time that makes change happen. When you go through one of these, nobody goes, geez, that's really great. Everything. What happens is they look back and say, wow, things are a lot different now than they were 6 months ago. That's really good. Or maybe it's 12 months ago. Or maybe it's 18 months ago. Doesn't matter. But that's how that stuff works. Creating false sense of urgency, making false promises, appealing to people's reptilian brains, managing by knee-jerk reaction, none of that's leadership. That's all a sideshow. It's a trap. Closing thought number 2 comes from Jesse Robinson, who at the time was the master of disaster at Amazon. Don't fight stupid, just make more awesome.